In today's video, I'm gonna break down the top 5 mistakes new shooters make when going to precision rifle matches. Now, this might not just be new shooters, this might include you. Maybe you don't make all of them, maybe there's some more you can think of. In fact, when I made this list, I thought of some more, so there'll probably be another version of this video in the near future. Now, today's video is brought to us by our friends over at Modular Driven Technologies. MDT make kick-ass chassis systems like the ones you see behind me. I use them every time I shoot a match. They're amazing and you can't go wrong. MDTtech.com to shop for your next precision rifle chassis. Now, tip number 1 brings us kind of to that point, and that is having the wrong equipment. So, first of all, if you're going out shooting a match with the wrong equipment, bravo, okay, you're getting out there, you're putting yourself out there, and you're gonna learn a hell of a lot nonetheless. So I get that everybody can't just go out and, spend $2,000-3,000 on a precision rifle system, okay? It's a lot of money. But if you know, maybe this sport is for you, and I see that in the comments all the time, guys. People saying I got them inspired to do precision rifle matches, and that is super, super cool. So I can't thank you guys enough for leaving me those comments. Now, as I was saying is, I understand that everybody can't go out there and just, buy the dream kind of setup or even a sort of budget-friendly starter setup. Unfortunately, this is quite an expensive sport, okay? And it does take a while to sort of build up to everything. What you guys have to keep in mind with the stuff that I'm using, I've done this for a few years, and over time I've built up quite a nice inventory of stuff, and I'm able to swap things out. So it always looks like I've got cool stuff, but I've been doing this for a while. I didn't just go out there and buy everything in the first week. So please keep that in mind. Also, you got to keep in mind quite a bit of the stuff we use on the channel is sponsored. So I'm also sort of helped a little bit that I don't have that massive budget constraints, and that allows us to produce videos like this. I got other expenses like keeping up with the camera stuff and all of those things. Anyway, I digress a little bit. The point I'm trying to make is, if you don't necessarily have the right equipment, like for example, there's a guy that shoots with us in the Natal region, Yusuf. Now, he started out with a 30-06 doing precision rifle matches. Now, immediately you're going to be at a disadvantage with a setup like that. You're going to have to deal with way more recoil than we're sort of dealing with on the 6.5 calibers, the 6mm. However, you're still going to learn a lot, okay? Now, props to Yusuf. I know he's invested in a 6.5 Creedmoor, and he's sort of going through the motions of getting that in South Africa. Obviously, that process takes a little bit longer. And as soon as he goes to that 6.5, he's going to be able to take sort of that information, okay, and apply it on his new rifle. The fundamentals that he would have learned there are going to translate over to his 6.5, and he's going to be in a much better position to shoot quicker because of less recoil and all of those things. So, but having said that, the point I'm trying to make here is, don't go out. If you know the sport is for you and you're gonna go and invest and purchase an optic and things like that, make sure you're doing your homework and buying the right thing the first time. I've always been a proponent of buying once and crying once. It does suck, but I do recommend rather saving 4 months longer and getting the chassis system that you want, for example, than compromising and later having to get rid of that and now buy a new thing, and it's quite more expensive that way. Make sure you're getting a first focal plane optic. Ask around at the club you plan on shooting. Do the people shoot MOA or MULS? Most people shoot MRAD nowadays, and that makes a big difference, when you're giving each other wind calls and sharing information. If you're shooting a different language in your optic, it does put you at a little bit of a disadvantage. So that's number 1. Having the right equipment or the wrong equipment is going to be a little bit of a disadvantage. So point number 2 is not being coachable. Now, the good news is, you're watching this video, you clearly have a need to take in additional information to upskill yourself. Now, that's very good news. Now, recently, on a more sort of personal note outside of shooting, I recently got back into dirt bikes, okay, and I actually have a race upcoming this week, Saturday. I'm super excited for that, and part of getting back into dirt bikes, I wanted to learn how to do it right off the bat. So I invested in getting a coach, and I've been going out to him a couple of times a month, and he's giving me some pointers. And just in the first 2 weeks, I was able to take 8% off my lap time. Now, that is absolutely a significant gain. And the reason I think it's so important, if you have a precision rifle system, something like this behind me, it's a Howa 223 training rifle, but that is a very expensive little setup in its current form. And a lot of times people, you're $2,000-$3,000 into a rifle, but you're not willing to spend a tiny little bit to learn how to use that system to its potential. And for me, that was the same. I've talked about this on the channel in the past that, the very first match I entered, I came stone dead last, okay? And actually recently I got those results. I'll have those results up for you guys here so you can see how terrible I did. And then I actually went to do a long range course. Now, it wasn't the best course in the world. However, it did point me in the right direction because, when you're new at something, you sort of don't know what you don't know. And that was enough to sort of point me in the right direction so that I could really start seeking the knowledge that I needed to and apply that to my actual training. So that's my number 2 tip, is be coachable. If somebody comes up to you at a stage and says, maybe you should think about doing that way. And that's for us sometimes as men a little bit of a problem. We're stubborn, some of us. And we don't want, I'm going to figure this out. But sometimes it's just better to actually get some instruction. And on that note, if you want to support the channel, we have a precision rifle course that's available. I take you through everything that I know with regards to precision rifle shooting. And if you want to check out the reloading one there too, it's going to be a massive benefit, guys. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee on that. So if by any means you feel that it was a waste of money, we'll refund you, no questions asked. To date, we've had almost 1,000 students. We've done 2 refunds with people that just sort of, it wasn't for them. So that should tell you a hell of a lot. So as I mentioned with the MX coaching, I've been able to take 8% off my lap times in literally 3 coaching sessions. And for me, with my new bike and everything and the race coming up this current weekend, that's been a game changer. Now, if you look at the state of my arms at the moment, I never said I was really good at listening to the instructions, but we've been pushing the envelope a little bit and we've been dinged up a tiny bit. Anyway, that brings us to point number 3, and that is time management. Now, I see this all the time, excuse the pun, when I'm watching other guys shooting. They're either rushing through a stage, okay, and finishing with, you've finished with 20 seconds left on the clock, and I myself have been very guilty of that in the past. That's something I've really worked on late. And if you look at my sort of the video that would have been out earlier this week, you would have seen that a couple of stages I finished with 2 seconds on the clock. And I always ask the RO on the stage, the range officer, to give me 60 seconds left, give me 30, and then give me 10, so that I can sort of budget with my time as I'm going through that positions to make sure that I'm using all the time allocated that I have to get off good shots, manage my recoil, everything within that time limit. Because sometimes when it's an easier stage, you could just, rush through it, drop 2 unnecessary shots, okay? And over the course of a 2-day rifle match, making a few mistakes like that adds up to 10 points pretty quickly. And, that could be the difference between winning and 20th. So keep that in mind. Work on managing your time so that you finish a stage in time. Now, having said that, sometimes a stage is really difficult, okay? Then you might be better off by also time management, but using your time more efficiently to get the number of points that you would be happy with. So let's say, for example, everybody's getting they're finishing the stage, but everybody's getting 4 out of 10. You might be better off on that stage trying to go for a 6 out of 10, but not necessarily rushing to get to the end. So rather take your time, build those positions rock solid, maybe not get to the end, but all the shots that you do end up taking, make sure they're absolute bangers. So that sort of dovetails with point number 4/point number 5, and that is building bad positions. I see all the time guys sort of getting into an awkwardish position. Let me grab this bag, for example. So let's say, for example, you're shooting off the top of a tank trap like this. Literally on the weekend, I saw one of my mates, if this was the top of the tank trap, his bag was completely on the edge of the thing, almost falling off, and he literally had his rifle on this much of the bag, literally over this little corner bit here, and he really wasn't using his equipment to his advantage. He was sort of compromising to try and get those shots off so that he could move to the next position. And after the stage, I said to him, don't get up there, hold everything like you've got it at the moment. If you don't mind, let me show you a couple of things here, just where to put that knee, where to rest the elbow, how you want to put that bag down. And immediately I had him go back on the target, and he was so much more stable, which was really cool. Now, if that's the kind of coaching you need, that's all the stuff, again, in our precision rifle course. We've got a whole module just on building positions on different obstacles and things like that. And that brings us to our last point, which is not having a plan. Now, I see this all the time. Guys sort of figure it out as they get there. And again, I'm guilty of this. In the past, I've gone pretty nonchalant, at a stage, okay, I'll figure it out sort of once the RO says go. And if you want to be good at this or semi-decent, you got to start planning your stage before the time. And we had a classic example of this, you know, this past weekend. In fact, on a few stages we had that where you really needed a plan and a strategy to execute on stage. You know, we've got enough things to worry about while we're shooting. Okay, you need to worry about what the wind's doing. Can you feel the wind picking up? Should you hold more? Should you hold less? You know, dialing your next dope, making sure you build a good position, squeezing a good trigger. You know, there's so much going on. So you kind of want to have that stage plan locked in before the RO says go. And a lot of time, that is something that I haven't done, but lately it's something I've been working on, and I must say I've been reaping the rewards of that. So before the stage starts, you know, do the stage briefing, get your dope and everything ready. By the way, if you're super new and you hear me talking about dope, that's data on previous engagement. It's not that. Okay, that's different, and not something we do on this channel. Anyway, so figure out a stage plan, and on that note, you know, look at what your fellow shooters are doing. What is working for them? How high are their bipods? You know, little things like that will go a hell of a long way. You know, making those tiny little shifts and getting a point here extra because you saw, oh, that guy was on the second click of his bipod, so that you don't have to struggle with that under time. You know, tiny things like that add up to quite a significant score increase over like a 2-day match or 10 stages on a 1-day match, for example. So I hope these tips have helped you. Are you guilty of some of them? Let me know down below what your 5 mistakes are that you are guilty of, or some other things you want me to elaborate on in a further video. Again, we couldn't make these videos without the support of our friends over at Modular Driven Technologies, MDT. Thank you so much for everything you do. And I also want to give a special shout out to everybody that joined the People of Impact, the guys supporting the channel on Patreon. It makes a hell of a difference doing what we do, having your support, so I can't thank every single one of you enough for everything you do for us. Guys, have a beautiful week. Enjoy the time with your family. You know, COVID and all the things going on in the world, you know, it can change like that. So make sure you love your loved ones, tell them that. And yeah, thanks for everything. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Get out there, shoot your guns, be safe, and be kind to one another. I think that's what Ellen says. But yeah, don't be a chop. Anyway, okay, bye.